Friends, we're joined by Andrew Seelye of G-Pod America in Texas. Welcome, Andrew.
Thanks, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. This is going to be a great conversation today. So we might be going over one another's words because we've had many conversations about your exceptional work. So for the folks that don't know you, let's start with context of where you are, and then we'll get into what the project is and the many reiterations that evolve.
Sounds good. Thanks, Mark. So we are just north of San Antonio, off-grid, so we're not using any grid power or grid water, and we have an off-grid site that was installed here to help us demonstrate some of the more unusual capabilities of our team. And just so happens that's an easy place for us to work to roll out some new products. So that's why we're here. So we're in Central Texas, about 70 miles south of Austin and about 20 miles north of San Antonio. So in the hill country.
The longitude and latitude is defined. We have our pin. I really enjoyed that you said that this is an off-grid project. That's exactly where we're starting from. So today, at that location, you're doing a living building, a proof of concept on an off-grid space. And for our friends that don't know what off-grid means, it means that the energy from the site is coming from the site. There's not local sewer, there's not local water, there's not electric, but there's this beautiful thing called sunshine. So you are off-grid. And
right.
The first stage of your process was really taking your experience and starting with a fresh design, a design that has the potential for growth and really the outlook for what can be used to accomplish this vision. So tell us the name of the structure and bring us into your world.
Yeah, so G-Pod is a modular manufacturing firm that delivers architectural products. So why we're doing this here is just for the development process, because we're bringing forward some really new designs. So what we're doing here is installing a bunch of infrastructure and peripheral products, but it's all meant to serve the development of our Nexus product line, which is an industrialized volumetric solution, but we're not going directly to manufacturing because we have a lot of little details to work out and a lot of experience that our team needs to get with doing things a little bit differently. We're using materials that are available today, but we're trying some new things. So to develop that, we're doing it here off grid where we don't have a lot of other influences steering the project. So we can do this pretty internally. So this villa is 1,000, that's about 1,100 square foot building. And if it were fully volumetric modular, it'd be 5 modules that are 12 by 24. These are wood, so we're using 90% of it's engineered wood and some products and materials that most people would be familiar with, but we're using them in some new ways. So this is meant to be, yeah, like you said, a living building. We will we'll be taking things apart and reinstalling new versions of things and different types of products and different solutions to try to map out. Because we're a global team, we have a lot of different supply chains to work with and a lot of different vendors bringing different value for different climates and all the little things that go into that. So we're trying to capture a lot of that data in our as-built model here, and then we can roll out the different types of solutions based on this design.
It's so great. And I said living building, you said living building. We say prototype, we say proof of concept, and you brought in that great spectrum of saying that some things will be undone just to evaluate, just to update, and really prove out various theories. I like the fact that your level of ambition is to really figure it out.
Yeah.
Um, and if we take that 12 by 24, it's a really good distinction because in this case you chose five. Of course, it doesn't matter whether it's one, whether it's 40, whether they're connected or not, whether they're stacked or not. So that means that you're not just solving one problem, but you're preparing solutions for problems that haven't come your way. That to me speaks to versatility, Andrew. Can you elaborate more on what prompted that focus of not being pigeonholed into uh, into a less dynamic answer?
I lost you there just for a second, Mark. Can you
Oh,
rephrase the question one more time so I can catch it all?
yeah. Apologize. So it's a very dynamic build, and so you created from the get go 12 by 24, and that 12 by 24 could be multiplied out
Yeah.
to infinity, if you will.
Yep.
It could be separated out, so there's many units in a development, and it could be stacked up. So you came to the 12 by 24 for a set reason, but you also came to that ability to make it longer, to divide it up or to stack it. Can you just give us a glimpse of what prompted that really dynamic decision?
Yeah, it was a few things. I think the main ambition there was to try to clarify the different dimensions of design for us. If we're trying to come up with a scalable solution, this is really meant to be, Nexus is meant to be a scalable prefab solution. So it would need to be modified a little bit for different climates and different performance levels and different brands that are working with the solution to have their own kind of infrastructure. We need to tailor it for that. But generally, really, it's meant to make it flexible enough for developers and builders that want to use it. So we need to understand that pretty deeply. And generally speaking, with that size module, we have a lot of freedom. The spans aren't incredibly huge, and we think we have the largest small the largest easy to handle size that we can think about for full volumetric. You know, we have the choice to go a little bit smaller, say 10 by 20 if we wanted to, but we were trying to capture the opportunities in the existing supply chain to come up with something that makes it pretty easy for people to pick up from the beginning. And you know, everything from takeoffs to delivery, I think it's an easier place to start with for us. And there's a little bit to the variations we might run across, but generally speaking, we just thought that was a good place to start with for both human spaces and for infrastructure that's out there that we have to get under, go around, or deal with. And you know, nothing's perfect because it's either going to be too big or too small, but it generally works out for most of the different markets and different supply chains that we have to work with. So just really all due to starting where we are today at zero and thinking more about the future than we are a legacy. We're trying to look forward. So that was just our original stepping off point for trying to bring the mechanical version of this proof of concept together.
Yeah, so the one module itself would be 12 by 24. And so it's a really comfortable size space.
Yep.
And that ability to add to it later, that
Yes.
ability to add to it from the get-go during the design phase is brilliant. And then you referenced a few times the access to supply chain. So you're using products that are for the most part readily available. Certain ones are customized. So that allows for wherever the locality of your projects are to then summons what's available there. But you also mentioned something very clearly, and that was some versions change, and that's based on the region that it's going into. So that means that you're already taking into account that Arizona, Maine, Ecuador, right,
Yeah,
Belize
yeah.
have different climate zones, right?
And different supply chains. Yeah, that's right.
So
So
most modular and offsite companies have a reach, right? Just like our truss manufacturers, they have a reach. And you stepped out of that box and you said, I need to design something based off of the potential for this to be in multiple regions where the materials are going to differ, the temperature is going to differ, and the skill sets are going to differ. So we have to have it figured out. Brilliant.
yeah, exactly, Mark. And you touched on something there. The skill sets are going to differ. So talent is a problem for every team. You know, we never have enough of it because we're usually limited in number or budget. There's always a limitation, and so if we can try to simplify the minimum skill set requirements of a design, I think it makes for both faster deployment and easier maintenance and some of the other efficiencies when you're developing. So we're trying to hit that stuff as accurately as we can from the outset, but I think to be fair, we'll do better in the future when we know more or less where the markets where we're going to start. I mean, we're a global brand. We're not a huge global brand, but we are a global brand. So we do have fans and folks that want to work with us in lots of different marketplaces. So we need to be pretty flexible there. I think it's not always the right path for every group that has a lot of physical infrastructure in one place. They may not have those choices. They may have capital that's limited to how it's deployed. So we're a little bit different, and so we can do it, you know, differently. But yeah, you touched on the talent, and that's a big idea, because we need to be able to work with folks where they are physically and in terms of their skills. So we're trying to keep that in mind as we develop.
Meeting your clients and meeting the territory where they are is brilliant. And that forethought of the evolution that's going to take is part of your planning for now. So you're in Texas, it's off grid. And before we get more into that offsite thing, I want people to first envision your respect to the environment and the land. And there's 5 modules here. And so with that, how many footings and posts? What does that look like?
Well, it's what we like to call low impact. So we're trying to I think our brand is pretty obviously focused on the natural setting, and we want to try to leverage that sometimes to offset the size. So you say, well, you have such a beautiful site, you don't necessarily need a 20,000 square foot building. Maybe the outdoors is always going to be bigger than your indoors, and let that be part of the experience. So we're trying to develop with an awareness of what makes that particular location valuable, whether it's trees or a view or something like that. And everybody would have their own individual economy of value there for the site. So we try to understand what that is and respect it. And so in this case, you know, we're dealing with really shallow soils. We have dolomite, which is quite hard limestone. There's not a lot of the voids and seashells and fossils and stuff you'd get, and a lot of it's pretty much just like a clay type rock that's really hard and totally calcium, you know. So we drilled 12 piers that were 24 inches wide, and the shortest one is about 5 feet. And so we drilled those, and we used concrete and steel posts to get us up off the ground. Now, we could easily pour a slab on this location and not really change the dynamic of this site, but but we think it's worthwhile to try to showcase. Putting a building up off the ground is not always the easiest thing to do, but it does have some good advantages, and it definitely changes how the building feels and how you kind of hover over nature rather than plonking down in the middle of it. So it's an interesting feeling, and it definitely looks pretty compelling. So we're used to doing that with some of our other products, other solutions. So we carried on with that here, and it does let us show that we're touching the ground physically in a pretty light way, and we're trying to minimize the amount of sprawl that we bring in, whether it's with concrete or digging or other types of soil that we have to replace, or, you know, it depends on where you're building and what your capabilities are going to be. But generally speaking, we're always looking forward to get into the site in the least impactful way to preserve everything there, and then try to showcase the nature of that particular location while we're doing a development. So there's a compromise there, but we want to do that with the, you know, in this case, 12 6-inch Schedule 40 steel pipes.
Got it. 12 6-inch Schedule 40 pipes. Are those filled with concrete?
Yeah, they are. So the pipes are set in concrete, and then there's concrete in the volume inside the pipe.
Right.
So there's a bit of concrete, but that's about the extent of the concrete out here. There really isn't very much. We're just using local crushed stone. We have a quarry really nearby, so we're able to use the natural materials pretty easily.
Right. The light impact on the land is brilliant. Ecologically speaking, it's brilliant, and it's the prep for how most of the modular and prefab work you'll be doing will be there. It's very designated spots for the unit to come in and sit down. I'm so tempted to run with the conversation, but not everyone has had a chance to meet you yet. So we're trying to walk, not run. Coming up from that, you have some centralized parts of your vision, and that was to create a core at the center, whether it's one modular or multiple modulars, so that the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing that you choose to have in your build is contained to one spot, reducing costs, certainly reducing material use, but greatly improving flow, efficiency, and the number one is in the installation, right, of the unit and everything around it is now more readily achievable for experts and for people getting into the game. So have at it with your brilliance there.
Yeah, I think it's a trend in the high performance end of things to consider what type of systems we're using and how we want to try to impact either the speed of the development and build, or the cost, or the quality for the end customer. I think we're trying to cover all of those things there. We're you know, the same folks in the industry that are propelling us forward here, doing a lot of measurement and helping us know exactly how to achieve those things. And in this case, we're using Uponor PEX A to make sure that the flow rates are sufficient, and we have the service pressure that we need at the appliance, for instance, in a plumbing line, and trying to make sure that we locate things. In our building, all the utility connections are done through an umbilical that's in one location, and everything that comes in is individually air sealed. So we're making sure that we cover all that. But then as we distribute those, all the plumbing and electric and everything like that, through the drains coming out, through that umbilical, we're trying to centralize all of that infrastructure so that it's not only less costly, but just works better. You have lower risks for leaks in other parts of the buildings. And I think it, when you get a larger development going, you really have to be appreciative of not having a lot of complexity in every place. So we can design with that in mind and make sure that when you turn on the hot water, there's hot water there really quickly. You know, if it goes through a cup or two of water, that's probably not too bad. If you're filling a 5-gallon bucket before the hot water gets to you, you may need to have a look in the mirror and think about that layout, because you know, you made some money for the plumbing suppliers, but you didn't do anything for the end customer, and you charged somebody money that probably, if you had a chance to rethink it, maybe wasn't well spent.
Great design feature for years to come, right?
Yeah, forever. Yeah.
Forever, yeah. So you have radiant energy, you have conductive, you have convection, you have thermal, you have bulk water. You're designing these buildings to be very durable, to be very lasting. And you mentioned the entrance of your umbilical cord. You're taking care of the air barrier. And in Texas, it happens to be hot. So, right?
You're
You're
right. You're right. It's
but we
we
also
make
had
heat.
snow and freezing temperatures,
It
right?
does, yeah. We make heat, but we get, you know, we trade. There must be some thermal markets or something, because Canada ships us lumber and cold weather, and hopefully we share a little bit of the heat. I think this year they've gotten some that we sent. So, you know, it's all a community of heat and lumber and all this stuff that we share. But yeah, we deal more with the heat in this location. But you're right. This past winter in February, everybody here got a reminder of how things actually work. If they weren't paying attention before, they are now.
Yeah. Talk about a supply chain adjustment.
Oh,
Ramifications were global, right?
yeah,
So just as you're trying to help global, we were alerted globally.
yeah, yeah,
Um, so you're designing that efficiency so that you're more comfortable, right? You're also now requiring less energy. And that is important again because it's off grid.
yeah.
And when you have that less requirement, now your renewables there are different. So you were waiting for some materials from your offsite component manufacturers to be delivered, and you had a change in your strategy. You decided not to put the solar panels on the roof, which can be done, right?
Yep.
Could always be done on the walls, many areas. And you said, I'm gonna I'm gonna go ahead and start my solar array before all the components arrive. So this was brilliant in so many ways. The first way for me is when I got to visit your site, there was no generator running, and we were able to have calm, cool discussions in a hot climate without anxiousness or screaming. Uh, Take us through that step and the brilliance of what you created for your builds and the builds of others.
Yeah, it was a big adjustment to make, and we originally, the timelines didn't look like we would be able to achieve it. But you said correctly that when we saw some delays and we were able to get the solar PV system that went in here, we went ahead with a plan we'd had earlier, but we didn't think we could roll out right away. And so we took the infrastructure that we had and installed it here, as a showcase. You know, we just the way that it went, we weren't ever able to roll everything out as completed, but we're doing that as we go, and it'll serve us through this build. But essentially, we bring this is part of our normal offerings for other customers, but we're bringing the water and power infrastructure into the site to help with the development process, so that, you know, a team could say, well, we don't have power out there, but we have an opportunity to begin the project, whether it's just site prep or something, and you need power. You can deploy those things, the enclosures and the systems, to allow you to work there as if you had grid power. So that's a thing I think isn't real common, but for us it worked out really well. So we were able to, when we had these other things going on, we said, okay, let's just put all this together and get ourselves to the point where at this point, it's been achieved. We're doing it, but we could deploy the systems and then build with those. So we really are building with renewables. And I think you're right. It makes for such a better job site. It looks better, sounds better. You're not running for fuel all the time. Whether it's diesel or gasoline or propane, it's really not it's not a satisfying part of the job to be maintaining that stuff and doing oil changes all the time. And solar is pretty luxurious. So when you get accustomed to it, you feel a little bit spoiled because it's silent and it runs all the time. And you just forget about there not being a grid connection until maybe your neighbors lose power, and then you don't, and that's when it feels kind of nice. But generally, that's a pretty good way to do a build in the environment wherever it's needed. It's not always required, but a lot of times an urban or suburban job may not have temporary power set up, and so what are they going to do out there? And a lot of cases, it's not really that a big of an issue because it's just heavy equipment doing site prep and dirt work or something. But as the job gets going, it's usually a bonus to have power like this. And so we did that in this case, and we will add solar to this building when it's done. But for right now, we have an adequate supply that's just located on the rooftops of the buildings that we're using. We got a job site trailer, we have a toolbox, basically a big container where all our tools are, and a wash pod that's storage and will be turned into a facility for this project. So
It's great. So the dynamic part that Andrew left out is the solar panel is not only powering his computer and phone as we speak,
yep.
but the table saws, the chop saws, the nail guns, and the
welders. Yeah, that's right. I think that's a point worth making, Mark, because if people aren't used to working around off-grid solar PV solutions, they may not understand what's possible. And if you happen to have an electric car or an electric motorcycle or anything else that uses electrons, you'll find out what a pleasure it is to be able to run all that stuff in a location that's not connected to somebody that's charging you by the minute or by the watt. So it's pretty cool to have that. And we do have a Tesla out here that we can charge with this system, and we do run welders. There's some fabrication skill on this team, and so we've got welders that we can connect to the 240 volt output. And it's nice to have 60 amps when you need it, and just a single plug.
Right. And walking your space, as we did, we spent hours doing it. There's no extension cords, right? So besides the audio safety, you have the trip hazard safety, and it's just a matter of grabbing another battery and going. Really impressive.
Yeah, you gotta charge a battery. You just come, and we got a big bank behind us here, and all the chargers are there, and pull a fresh battery off, and you're done.
So the popularity that I wanted to get to as we wrap up is in your mock-up phase, in your design phase, and in this this continual prototype proof of concept phase for data and for learning. You branched into something that no one has ever done that I'm aware of, and the accolades are needed, and I hope they're copied. And what you did is you're saying this design can be used virtually anywhere with the necessary modifications for supply and climate and site, right? And then with that, your research is clear that not all sites can receive modular, not all sites can receive panelized, not all sites can receive prefab. So in the event that they still like the design and it's all worked out, that can be replicated from multiple modules out to over to up, and then panelized prefab or modular, not just by your company, but Andrew, I would presume that other companies that are in the offsite space can produce the design in the region as well on the global level.
Yeah, that's right. We think it's pretty easy to replicate these designs, so we're trying to make them suitable for everybody. And in our opinion, it's true that offsite volumetric deliveries are the most beautiful. It's probably the highest and best use of our construction capacity, but it's not always realistic. And when we're small like this and we do different things, I mean, we're really focused on modern. So if if somebody's super nostalgic and not in a 1950s space age kind of way, we may not be a good fit for them. But otherwise, we want to be as open as we can to slotting our designs into those projects and into that marketplace, and using the widest range of manufacturing partners that we can, or supply chain solution, delivery mechanisms, right? I mean, pretty much everywhere we have on the planet, we have enough similarity to be able to replicate our designs, maybe with some small adjustments like we talked about. But yeah, we're trying to make sure that this fits into the most widely varied use cases that we possibly can without really changing too much the inherent qualities of the design.
Andrew, you're enhancing the spaces that you're working on. You're enhancing our industry, and you're enhancing the thoughts of how work can be done globally. I really respect how you enter the space, the support and the outreach you give. Is there anything you'd like to share with folks that maybe we haven't touched on that that needs to be conveyed?
Well, I think we're here for the future. So we look forward to participating in the changes in our industry that need to happen and that are already happening. We really respect the vision of others that are out there who want to see the offsite space get the amount of market share that it deserves, and to help people understand what is possible with a manufacturing minded approach to building these solutions. So we'd like to see the community keep growing, and we'd like to participate where we can, collaborate and support the others that are doing. We're pretty small. We think that we're able to make some differences in the future, but not huge impacts yet. But we'd like to be there with everybody that's pushing to go ahead. So if you guys have any idea, or if anyone's looking to collaborate, let us know. And we really want to make sure that we voice our support for the others that have brought us this far, and the folks that are taking us forward, because it really needs to be something that we celebrate and we push ahead for. We've got a lot to do, but it's going well. So we'll see you there.
The flexibility and inclusivity that your vision engulfs is really admirable. I would say my favorite hashtag that exists is still ever expanding results, and you are the definition.
Thank you, sir.
So, Andrew, continued success to you. Much respect, and we hope to continue to learn from you, brother. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark. Great talking to you as always. Keep up the great work, and next time, everybody.
I'm gonna stop the recording.